So let's get back to football rather than talking about the ridiculousness of Dundee, and talk a little bit about what Phillipe Clement has had to say as regards to Fabio Silva. And I speak for quite a few Rangers fans when we talk a little bit about the antics of Fabio Silva on Sunday. I think a lot of us were very unimpressed with his antics. He's rolling around, he's holding his face, his histrionics at times, which, you know, are not what we want to see from Rangers players. Are certainly not the sort of behaviour we expect from Rangers players either. And I think, you know, Fabio needs to learn that that is wholly unacceptable to the Rangers fan base. So Phillipe Clement obviously did speak about what happened on Sunday as regards Fabio Silva in his written media availability post his television press conference yesterday. And he talked about Fabio Silva and some of the incidents around Silva, including that penalty. And we're going to get to that. And I've actually got the clip of the rules that explain why it is a penalty, something Celtic fans and Brendan Rodgers clearly don't understand, which is the rules of football. I add into that as well Chris Sutton and Michael Stewart. But Phillipe Clement made some, in my opinion, very clever comments about the whole Fabio Silva incident. You know, yes, you know, there was histrionics there. Yes, there was things that he didn't like. But he did say this, and I think this is very intelligent, and I will get to this quote in a minute, and I'll explain this quote in a minute. He says, "It's not justified in everything because I see that some people, again, with coloured glasses, throw everything on the same pile." What a quote. There were two actions which I was not happy with him about, and I show him today also about that. He should have been stronger in the duel, and he was not strong enough. In other moments, he really did get kicked. So, look, first of all, let's deal with that first comment that Phillipe Clement made. He says that there's a lot of people who have, in his words, coloured glasses. I think, e.g., getting at the likes of Chris Sutton, likes of Michael Stewart, likes of Brendan Rodgers, for example, in their comments as regards the penalty incident, as regards Fabio Silva. Chris Sutton even labelling him a diver. Which, you know, I haven't seen some of the falls and dives that Chris Sutton used to do when he played for Norwich and Chelsea is quite comical coming from him. But it's also comical coming from Michael Stewart, who, as Roy Keane described is little bit better than a pub footballer. You know, he's right with the fact that people are wearing coloured glasses on this incident and not seeing the game for what it is, and not understanding the rules, and not understanding, you know, the whole situation where you've got to judge each incident on its merits rather than looking back at what Silva did over the whole period of the game. And look, I'll be honest with you, some of what Silva did was absolutely ridiculous. And Phillipe Clement is clear, the fact that he said that he has spoken to him about two incidences in particular that he was not happy about, and two reactions that he was not happy about. And he has made it very clear to Fabio Silva that this is not tolerable by him or by the Rangers team. So therefore, he needs to cut it out, basically. So it's good to see the manager being strong with Fabio Silva on this. Like I said, there's a lot of fans out there who were very angry at Silva for some of his antics. However, going on to the penalty incident that Celtic fans, that Chris Sutton labelled as embarrassing, that Michael Stewart raved about, clearly demonstrating that, and I'll show you why in a moment, Chris Sutton and Michael Stewart have no concept of football rules. They don't understand the rules of the game anymore. They clearly are out of touch. And I've got to say, you know, that the commentary on Sunday on Sky from Chris Sutton was absolutely embarrassing. It was genuinely embarrassing how one-eyed, how biased he was towards Celtic. I would urge Celtic fans, and I'd urge you as well, go and watch the Liverpool-Manchester United game, which has got Carragher and Neville commenting on the game. Carragher is a Liverpool player, hates Manchester United. Gary Neville is a Manchester United player who hates Liverpool, or former Manchester United player who hates Liverpool. But at no time during that game did they display the same bias, the same just embarrassing comments about opposite teams based solely on their dislike or hatred. They did it in a fair, pundit-like, professional manner. Chris Sutton and Michael Stewart wouldn't know professionalism if it bit them on the arse. Now, Phillipe Clement went on to talk a little bit further about this incident. He said he's also got two really deep marks in his calves after this game, cuts from the studs. There are a few actions where he could go down because there was a severe tackle or a duel, and there were those where I've talked to him about. It's a clear penalty. Only if you have coloured glasses, you say it's not a penalty. People who are neutral, or maybe even if they have coloured glasses, they say a neutral thing. So he said, I see the ref watch in England and Dermot Gallagher, who is neutral, although maybe people say he's more favourite of Celtic. I don't know if that's true or not. It is, in fact, true. He is a Celtic fan, but he clearly says it's a penalty. You know, it is absolutely, just utterly ridiculous. The comments that have come, that based on the way that Silva behaved in the rest of the game, that based on what happened in the previous game, the previous incidents leading up to this, that the penalty shouldn't have been given just because of that. Now, if you look there, Alistair Johnston kicks Silva across the top of the knee and across the thighs, therefore meaning he has made contact. Now, Michael Stewart on his Twitter account has tried to argue that he touched the ball, therefore is not a penalty. However, these are the rules. So Michael Stewart, Chris Sutton, learn the rules. If you don't know the rules, get to know the rules, to quote Bevo. Practical advice for match officials. Is it illegal if a player gets the ball first? Okay. While challenging for the ball, a player first touches the ball and makes contact with an opponent. May this be penalised by the referee? The decision will depend on the exact nature of the challenge. It must be emphasised that playing the ball first does not necessarily mean that the challenge is legal. It is a direct free kick or penalty kick if a challenge or tackle is careless, reckless, or uses excessive force. It does not matter if there is contact with the ball. A player makes, let me just clear that banner. A player makes unfair contact with the ball and an opponent at the same time or afterwards. So it's clear from those rules, particularly that second one, that is why it was a penalty. That is why the penalty was awarded, because Johnston, although he touches the ball slightly, does not gain control of the ball and still takes down Fabio Silva. Therefore, under the rules of the game, and they are the rules from the handbook, referee's handbook, which is in use in Scotland, in England, in Europe, wherever you referee, under those rules, it is a penalty. Now, I would urge Celtic fans to read those rules. I know they can't read most of them, but have a read of those rules. Look at what the rules say and then tell me it's not a penalty, because it's a penalty. It simply is a penalty. In the modern game, it is a penalty. Yes, probably 10, 20 years ago, it's not a penalty, because rules have changed, rules have evolved. That's the nature of football. Football has changed over the years. The things you used to be able to get away with in the 80s and the early 90s, you cannot do anymore, not in the modern football game. And that we can debate that as another podcast, debating, the whole idea of, is football better or worse than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago? But under the present rules, it is a penalty. But what we take away from this is quite simple. Number one, that Silva has been spoken to about his antics and has been made quite clear what is acceptable and is not what is not acceptable by Phillipe Clement. What would be really interesting to know is, has Brendan Rodgers had the same conversations with the likes of Kyogo, who is only too willing to throw himself to the deck at the slightest touch and has the same histrionics as he has demonstrated on multiple occasions this season as Silva did on Sunday? Has he done that? Has he had that conversation? Do Celtic fans condemn Kyogo for the fact that he goes to the ground so easily and rolls around like he's been shot? I very much doubt it, because as we always know, their motto, always cheated, never defeated. Now, the second thing we take from this is that obviously there are one or two pundits out there, Sutton, Stewart, for example, who, again, are not judging games fairly, who are judging games based on their internal bias rather than by the rules of the game. If this continues, and I think Scottish football needs to act, I think, honestly, Scottish football needs to take a long look at this. And the broadcasters of Scottish football need to get rid of the likes of Sutton, the likes of Stewart, and say to them, until you actually are willing to judge a game fairly based on what the rules are and judge a game in a professional manner, you are not allowed to be a pundit anymore on our station. I think that is the best way forward if Scottish football is going to start to be taken seriously, because it's become a bit of pantomime for me amongst some down here. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. As always, guys, it is a pleasure speaking to you here on Glasgow Rangers Nation. Please, obviously, smash the like on the way out. And remember, always, we are the people.